They always say a wedding is the most sacred day of a girl's life. But for me, it was the day my future son-in-law stood in the middle of the Emerald Crown Hotel, pointed at the $120 suit I was wearing, and shouted, "You don't deserve to walk into this wedding." He had no idea that the very suit he scorned would become the piece of evidence that opened a trial right in front of the altar. Before hundreds of guests, his mask fell, exposing a humiliating truth, while my daughter's hands trembled as she removed the ring, giving herself back her freedom. If you want to know how an ordinary father can turn a wedding day into a day of judgment, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave a comment to tell me where you're listening from. Your support is the reason I keep revealing the things many families want to hide. They say when a man grows old, the one thing he longs for most is the respect of his family. But that evening, in the dining room lit by crystal chandeliers at Queen Anne in Seattle, I, Gordon Ellsworth, understood that respect doesn't always come from kin. It can be replaced by cold mockery, wrapped in a swirling glass of wine and the confident smile of someone who thinks himself superior. The silver spoon tapped lightly against the porcelain bowl, a delicate sound that on any other day I might have found pleasant. But that night, it rang like an alarm bell. Spencer Rowe, my daughter Lillian's fiancé, leaned back in his chair, voice raised just enough for everyone to hear. "Mr. Ellsworth, honestly now, that suit you're wearing, where did it come from? Clearance rack at Macy's, perhaps?" Laughter mingled with the chime of crystal glasses. I set down my water glass, eyes fixed on the light reflecting off the polished walnut table. In more than 30 years on the federal appellate bench, I had seen every attitude, the pleading, the falsely remorseful, the arrogant, but rarely had I seen anyone flaunt such brazen conceit in a family dinner the way Spencer did then. Lillian came out from the kitchen, tray in hand, the scent of rosemary from roasted chicken filling the room. She looked up just in time to hear Spencer's last words. "Spencer." Her voice faltered, but he waved her off, red wine swirling in the baccarat glass. "I'm just being honest, darling. Presentation matters. We're about to have a wedding worth $250,000. Friends from venture capital, tech executives flying up from San Francisco. They all have sharp eyes. If they see your father in a department store suit, well, not great for the image." I nodded slightly, keeping calm. "This suit has accompanied me through no small number of formal events. It is more than adequate for occasions requiring serious attire." Spencer laughed, a brittle sound like breaking glass. "Adequate, maybe in a county courthouse. But this is your daughter's wedding in my world. There you don't show up to venture capitalists in a $100 outfit." Lillian set the tray down heavily, dishes clinking, her brow furrowed. "My father's suit is perfectly fine. Don't overdo it." Spencer leaned forward, patting my hand with feigned generosity. "Mr. Ellsworth, I don't want to make my future father-in-law uncomfortable. Truly, you don't need to worry about expenses. I'll cover the entire wedding. Flowers, music, champagne. Consider it my gift to Lillian." Inside my chest, I felt a chill that wasn't anger but recognition, the same as when I spotted a piece of evidence in a case file that rendered the defendant's elaborate defense meaningless. Lillian lowered her head, twisting her engagement ring. The sight pierced my memory. Margaret, my late wife, used to twist her wedding band the same way when anxious. I knew Lillian was caught in a battle she couldn't yet name. I sipped my water, letting silence fall over the table. The golden light cast shadows on the white tablecloth, drawing invisible lines between us. Spencer didn't realize that in silence much was happening. A father's dignity under trial, a judge's memory parsing every detail, and the quiet birth of a plan. "I appreciate your generosity," I said slowly, "but my daughter does not need anyone to define this family's worth with invoices or labels on a suit." Spencer raised an eyebrow, eyes gleaming with challenge. He surely thought me just a stubborn old man, a retired judge that the wealthy world would soon leave behind. I argued no further. Decades in the judiciary had taught me one thing. Those too certain of themselves often overlook small signs, and that very arrogance leads them to the edge. Dinner ended in strained silence. Spencer rose, setting his wineglass down with theatrical flair. Enough, I'll say no more. In any case, I want our wedding to be perfect. Don't worry, I'll handle everything. The door shut behind him, leaving the scent of red wine mingled with rosemary. Lillian stayed, voice barely above a whisper. Dad, I'm sorry. Spencer shouldn't have. I placed my hand over hers, squeezing gently. It's all right. But remember what he said tonight. It wasn't just about the suit. It's about how he sees the world. Outside the window, Seattle's night shimmered with the lights of the Space Needle, reflecting over Elliott Bay. A bustling city, yet in that glow I saw only one truth. The real trial had just begun, and I would not back down. When I returned home and opened my laptop, the inbox lit up with a cold subject line. Wedding attire, important. The screen glared, the subject line striking like an indictment. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, my heart beating with a familiar rhythm. Not nervousness, but the trained pulse of probable cause. I knew something was about to turn mockery into evidence. I opened the email. The words appeared, blunt as a charge sheet. Mr. Ellsworth, I have thought carefully. Our wedding will have many important attendees. Venture capital, tech executives, family, and friends from California. I cannot allow our image to be diminished by inappropriate attire. I ask that you select a proper suit. If not, I will have to request Emerald Crown Hotel security to deny you entry. Entry will be forbidden. Spencer Rowe. I read it once, twice, 3 times. Each word stabbed memory like a needle. I had read thousands of indictments, tens of thousands of defense briefs, yet seldom had I seen a personal message drip with such blatant arrogance. I clicked the printer icon. The familiar whir filled the study. A sheet slid out, black letters sharp, my first piece of evidence. I placed it into a blue folder labeled Row, Wedding Evidence. Closing the laptop, the room darkened. On the desk, Margaret's framed photo remained. Her smile was gentle, her eyes knowing. I remembered a summer afternoon years ago. Margaret in the backyard pruning roses. Little Lillian at 6 running around, white dress fluttering. Daddy, is your suit nice? Her voice echoed in memory, innocent and sweet. Margaret had turned, eyes bright. She just wants her dad to be her hero. Now, years later, that same suit, an ordinary $120 Macy's suit, had become the excuse for an outsider to humiliate me in front of my daughter. The phone buzzed softly. A message from Lillian. Dad, I'm sorry about Spencer. He drank too much. I looked at the words, then typed slowly. Don't worry. But you must pay attention. Sometimes wine only removes the mask. What's left is the true man. 3 dots appeared, then vanished. I received no reply. I knew Lillian was wavering. My daughter is intelligent, but her heart is being swayed. And her eyes tonight, twisting the ring, told me more than any excuse could. The next day, I walked along the Elliott Bay waterfront. Seattle, in the early morning, carried a strange stillness. Sailboats were moored along the docks, and sunlight rippled on the water's surface. I had walked this path countless times in my life, but this morning each step felt as heavy as if I were entering a courtroom. My mind replayed hundreds of cases I had tried. Stock fraud, embezzlers, men who thought wealth and connections placed them above the law. Spencer Rowe, in my eyes now, was no different. He used a suit as a weapon, but in truth, what he wanted was to assert power, to impose that my family must conform to his world's standards. When I returned home, I called Marcus Hale, a former colleague, now a contracts attorney. Marcus, I said, I need to see the venue contract of the Emerald Crown Hotel. I want to know if the groom has the right to bar my entry? Marcus chuckled. Old friend, you still can't drop the habit of thorough investigation, can you? All right, I'll look into it. But remember, if the bride's side is listed as the contracting party, Roe doesn't have unilateral authority. I'll send you a copy soon. I set the phone down, exhaling. Margaret, if you were alive, you would tell me, don't let anger cloud your judgment, and you'd be right. I was not angry. I was observing. A case was forming with the first piece of evidence already filed in the blue folder. That night, I sat alone in my study. The scent of oak and old paper from law books filled the air. I opened my journal, writing in steady script. May 5th, Spencer Rowe sends ultimatum. Entry will be forbidden if I wear a $120 suit. Keep the printout. Strategy, silence, observe, gather evidence. No early confrontation. Suit, evidence. When I closed the book, I felt an odd calm. A father may be humiliated, but a judge, even retired, never allows truth to be twisted. That night I dreamed of Margaret. She sat in the old armchair, teacup in hand, eyes stern yet kind. Gordon, she said, give your daughter time to see for herself. But when the moment comes, stand as you once did in court. Justice is not confined to the bench. I awoke in the night, rain pattering outside, the sound on the Emerald City roof mixed with my sigh. Margaret was right. This would not be about a suit. It would be about character, control, and Lillian's future. The next morning, Marcus called. Gordon, I've read the contract. There's a clause you should hear. It might change everything. The phone rang through the gray morning. I picked up Marcus's voice, firm. Gordon, I've reviewed the Emerald Crown contract. It's clear. Both the bride's side and the groom's side have equal rights to invite and confirm guests. Spencer Rowe cannot unilaterally bar the bride's father. I nodded as if hearing a verdict, though alone in my room. Marcus continued, but there's a loophole. If you are labeled a disruptive guest, security can refuse entry. Rowe could twist this matter into you damaging the event's image. It's wordplay. I paused, then said, thank you. That makes transparency even more crucial. I've printed his ultimatum email. That will be evidence. Marcus sighed. Hold on to it. Don't let him spin it. And Gordon, remember, if needed, I'll stand with you. I hung up and walked to the window. Morning rain streaked the glass in a fine web. I looked down at Elliott Bay, boats resting quietly, and felt my own resolve anchoring. The truth must surface. That afternoon, I reread Spencer's email. Entry will be forbidden. Those words struck like a judge's gavel. I had sentenced many who abused power, and now this threat was Rowe's own self-incrimination. I placed another printout in the blue folder. 2 copies, 2 silent but steady witnesses. This evidence would speak when the time came. That evening, when Lillian stopped by with wedding dress photos, her face glowed, but her eyes were tired. She smiled faintly. Dad, I want you to be at ease. Spencer said he'll cover everything from flowers to champagne. Please don't worry about expenses. I looked at her, remembering Margaret, and gently asked, do you feel at peace when he says such things? Lillian froze, then lowered her eyes. I just want everything to go smoothly. I said no more. I quietly set down an old casebook on the table, whispering to myself, smoothness does not come from control. It comes from respect. Lillian's eyes glistened. Dad, Spencer is just a perfectionist. He's under pressure. I believe that's all. I saw her twisting the ring again, just as Margaret once did in worry. I knew well, no pressure justifies humiliation. After she left, I returned to my desk. I set an old recorder beside the laptop. A thought struck. I would not rely only on emails. If Spencer pressed further, I would need voice evidence, his tone, his words. Years on the bench taught me, once spoken and recorded, Words become the strongest shackles. I wrote in the journal, May 6th, ultimatum email, printed. Plan. If Roe repeats, record. Suit is no longer attire. It is evidence. Outside, rain fell steadily. The clock ticked in rhythm with it, counting down to judgment. Just then the phone rang. Caller ID, Spencer Rowe. I pressed record and prepared to hear him repeat his threat. Spencer's voice came through, rough but steady. Mr. Ellsworth, I hope you read the email. I don't want misunderstandings. Your $120 suit, if you wear it, security, will stop you. I will not allow our wedding to become a laughingstock. I let him speak, my finger brushing the recorder's red light. Each word echoed, locked into undeniable evidence. I answered calmly, I hear you. Thank you for confirming. He seemed surprised by my lack of reaction, grunted, then hung up. I looked at the blinking red light, feeling another card slip into my hand. That afternoon, I drove to Capitol Hill, to the red brick Seattle Judicial Center. I entered the office of Teresa Blake, Chief Justice, a longtime colleague and friend. She rose with a calm smile. Gordon Ellsworth, how long has it been? I thought retirement meant roses and books. I shook her hand. Teresa, I thought so too, but something won't let me sit idle. I handed her the blue folder containing the printed email and USB with the call recording. She skimmed, her eyes sharpening. He dared send this to you? I nodded. Not only send, he repeated it openly. Teresa set the papers down, silent for a moment. What do you intend, Gordon? I answered slowly, each word like a verdict. Observe, collect, wait for the moment. She leaned back, hands clasped. If needed, I'll stand. But you know my presence must be timed. Too early, and he adapts. Too late, and you lose your chance. I nodded. I only ask you to be there on the wedding day. When needed, confirm the truth. He thinks I'm just a government clerk. Let him dig his own grave. She smiled faintly with both agreement and trust. Very well, Gordon. I'll be there. And when you call, I'll speak. Driving home through heavy rain, jazz played on the radio. I thought not of music, but of past trials. Men who thought themselves untouchable, undone by a single piece of evidence. Roe was walking that same path. I would only let him finish it. By the time I reached home, Marcus had sent another email. Gordon, I dug further. Spencer was tied to a crypto fund collapse in California, losing about $12 million of investors' money. No lawsuits, but some victims are still bitter. This could be his weakness. Reading it, my heart tightened, as if hearing an overture to a major trial. He was not just arrogant, he was tainted. I noted in my journal. May 7th, allies in place, evidence in hand. Financial scandal uncovered. Spencer Rowe, file opening. I set down the pen, closing the book. In the scent of wood and paper, Margaret's smile in the photo seemed to whisper, Do as you've always done, observe, record, and deliver judgment in time. That night, as I prepared for sleep, the phone buzzed. An unknown number. I answered, a trembling male voice. Mr. Ellsworth, I once invested with Spencer Rowe. I have something you need to know. The trembling voice still echoed in my head all morning. His name was Howard Price, a small investor from San Jose, who had put money into Rowe's crypto fund. I lost nearly $100,000, Mr. Ellsworth. He promised returns, then disappeared when the market collapsed. I hear he's marrying your daughter. I just want you to know, Spencer is not who you think. I recorded the call, stored it in the blue folder. Another layer of proof. But by morning, Spencer had struck first. In the wedding group chat with dozens of guests, he typed a line dripping with scorn, forwarded to me by one of Lillian's own friends. Everything is set for the wedding. Of course, I'm covering all expenses since the bride's family isn't familiar with costs at this level. No problem. I like perfection. Those words spread like spilled wine seeping into velvet, soaking every corner. Some guests messaged Lillian privately. Is it true your father isn't contributing? I knew my daughter flushed red reading them. When she came to see me that afternoon, her eyes were rimmed. Dad, Spencer was just joking. He wants everything perfect. But now everyone thinks, you can't provide for me. I placed my hand on my daughter's shoulder and said calmly, do not let his words define who your father is. Those who understand will see what the truth is. But inside, I knew Spencer was not joking. He was deliberately planting a story, smearing my reputation on the eve of the wedding. I had seen this tactic in the courtroom, a defendant spreading rumors to weaken the other side before trial. But Spencer forgot one thing. I am not an opponent, easily swayed. That very evening, I received a call from Victor Morgan, head of security at the Emerald Crown Hotel. His voice was professional and composed. Judge Ellsworth, I am calling to confirm something. Our hotel maintains a VIP guest list, which includes individuals who have held senior public office or have a recognized record. You served on the federal appellate court, your record has been on file for years, and your name is on this list. That means, regardless of what the groom or anyone else says, we are not permitted to inconvenience you, much less deny you entry. You are protected by the hotel's official policy. You have my word. I smiled faintly. Thank you, Victor. I understand. I only need you to do your duty, without favoring anyone. I hung up and looked out the window, seeing Seattle drenched in thick rain, streetlights spilling onto the slick sidewalks. Spencer thought he could steer public opinion through a group chat, but he did not know the hotel policy already stood with me. I opened the blue folder and placed inside a printed screenshot of the group chat a guest had sent. Evidence upon evidence, like layers of brick building a wall. In the study, I added to my journal, May 8th, Spencer spread talk in the group chat to undermine me. Screenshot secured. Victor Morgan confirmed I am a VIP guest. Hotel policy protects me. He thinks he controls the story, but he is actually creating his own indictment file. I closed the book and leaned back in the old leather chair. On the shelf, Margaret's framed smile remained. I suddenly recalled her voice. Do not be hasty, Gordon. Those who talk too much reveal themselves. I closed my eyes and listened to the rain like the ticking of Justice's clock. I knew Spencer had begun to step into the spiral he created. Just as I turned off the light, the phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from an unknown number. I have the investment contract Spencer signed. Do you want to see it? The text from the unknown number glowed on the screen in the dark. I have the investment contract Spencer signed. Do you want to see it? I sat still for a moment, listening to Seattle rain patter against the glass, then typed slowly, Yes, send me what you have. A PDF file arrived immediately with a short line. Keep me anonymous. I opened it and saw an investment agreement between Spencer Rowe and a group of investors in Palo Alto. His signature was clear, the amount of $500,000 stated explicitly, but the repayment and terms section was blank, a shady pattern I had seen many times in financial fraud cases. I printed a copy and placed it in the blue folder. The file was growing thicker, like a prosecution brief coming into shape. The next morning, Lillian stopped by. Her face brightened when she talked, about flowers and live music, but her eyes betrayed unease. I quietly watched as she sat down, her fingers twisting the diamond ring again. Dad, she said, I know Spencer can be rigid, but he loves me. I believe that. I gave a thin smile and spoke slowly. Love never equals control. Do not mistake wanting good for you with wanting to seize your decisions. Lillian fell silent. I saw a flicker of sadness pass through her eyes like a cloud over sunlight. She shifted to the guest list. I listened, but my mind returned to the blue folder. In the afternoon, Marcus called. Gordon, I found another detail. Spencer is borrowing all over. Besides the crypto issue, he took $500,000 from a New York partner and has not repaid a cent. I think you should know. I tapped my pen lightly. Thank you, Marcus. All these pieces will form a complete picture. Marcus paused, then said softly, Be careful, Gordon. He looks polished, but inside there's a void. Men like that, cornered can be unpredictable. I hung up and sat in the dim room, desk lamp shining on the thick blue folder. On the cover, 3 words were written in black ink. Suit nach evidence. I remembered the first night Spencer mocked my suit, the ultimatum email, the call where he ordered, "Entry will be forbidden." Each piece had become the foundation for what I knew would come. That night, I opened my journal again and wrote, May 9th, new witness with investment contract. Marcus confirmed additional debt of $500,000. Lillian is wavering, need a decisive trigger to open her eyes. I set down the pen, closed the page, and looked at Margaret's photo. In her gaze, I seemed to hear, "Be patient, Gordon. Do not rush to judgment. Let them reveal themselves." I sighed and turned off the light. In the dark room, only the steady rain remained, like a giant clock counting down to Judgment Day. Just as I drifted to sleep, the phone lit up. This time it was Marcus, urgent. "Gordon, I found an investor willing to testify, but you must meet him in person, in Portland. Are you willing?" Marcus arranged to meet me at a small cafe in downtown Portland, where warm light washed over old wooden tables, and espresso mingled with rain from the street. Waiting for us sat a thin man, around 50, in a worn brown coat. He introduced himself as Raymond Scott. His hand trembled slightly as he pulled a stack of papers from his case. "Here," he said, "is the contract I signed with Spencer Rowe. $500,000. He promised repayment in 6 months. It has been 2 years. I have not received a dollar." I took the papers and flipped through them. Spencer's signature appeared plainly, undeniable. "Are you willing to testify if necessary?" I asked. Raymond swallowed, tense. "If necessary, I will. But please keep my name sealed until you are sure. I do not want him dragging my family in." I nodded, my voice low. "I understand. The truth will be used at the right time." We sat a while longer, listening to Portland rain against the awning, each drop like a gavel in a trial waiting to open. When I returned to Seattle, the blue folder was so thick it barely closed. The ultimatum email, the call recording, the group chat screenshot, the investment contract, and now the $500,000 agreement. I knew I had enough to bring Spencer down, but the problem was not only him. It was Lillian, my daughter, who still believed his Polish was a mask she could easily remove. I needed her to see it with her own eyes. The next day I called Teresa Blake. "Teresa, I have everything, but I need your presence on the wedding day, not just to speak, but to confirm, before everyone who matters." On the other end, her voice was firm. "Gordon, I will be there. I will let him expose himself, and when the time comes, I will state clearly who you are." I hung up, my eyes turning to the navy suit still hanging in the closet. It stood there like a silent witness, the simple armor worth $120 that Spencer despised so much he threatened to bar it. I touched the fabric, cool and smooth beneath my fingertips, and knew everything would revolve around it. That evening Lillian called. Her voice was small, as if afraid Spencer would hear. "Dad, Spencer wants you to try a new outfit. He says he'll take you to a high-end tailor. Could you please go along just this once?" I was silent for a few seconds, then answered, "I will wear my suit, and if you want to know why, let the wedding day tell you." Lillian choked, then burst into tears. "Dad, I don't want to lose both of you. Please don't turn this into a war." I closed my eyes, hearing her sobs through the phone. My heart ached, but reason held fast. I knew justice sometimes needs a crack for the light to come through. I added to my journal, May 12th, Portland witness secured. Teresa will appear. Lillian is deeply torn. The wedding day, where truth will resound. Night fell and Seattle rain drummed the roof. I sat alone, looking at the thick blue folder, feeling as if I were preparing for the most important trial of my life. Not in a courtroom, but within my own family. At dawn, I received an anonymous email with a chilling subject. Rowe's other life, confidential photos. The anonymous email arrived at daybreak, its subject line cold. Rose's other life, confidential photos. I opened the attachments. On the screen appeared a sequence of photos. Spencer in a stylish San Francisco bar, arm around an unfamiliar woman, neon casting over his face, a smile too confident. In another, he sat playing poker, stacks of multicolored chips piled before him. An accompanying bill showed losses of more than $45,000 in a single night. I printed all the photos, placed them in the blue folder, and sat for hours under the desk lamp studying them. The elegant mask he wore before Lillian had begun to crack, and I had enough to prove it. In the afternoon, Lillian arrived with a stack of wedding magazines. She sat down, forcing a smile, but her eyes were still puffy. "Dad, Spencer cares about the family's image. He went a bit overboard, but he means well." I did not reply immediately. I placed my hand on my daughter's shoulder and said calmly, "Do not let his words define who your father is. Those who understand will see what the truth is." But inside, I knew Spencer was not joking. He was deliberately planting a narrative to smear my reputation on the eve of the wedding. I had seen this tactic in court, a defendant spreading rumors to weaken the other side before trial. But Spencer forgot one thing. I am not an opponent easily swayed. That very night, I got a call from Victor Morgan, head of security at the Emerald Crown. His voice was professional and steady. "Judge Ellsworth, I am calling to confirm something. Our hotel maintains a VIP guest list that includes individuals who have held senior public office or have a recognized record. You formerly served on the federal appellate court. Your record has been on file for years, and your name is on this list. This means that regardless of what the groom or anyone else says, we are not permitted to inconvenience you, much less deny you entry. You are protected by the hotel's official policy. You have my word." I smiled slightly. "Thank you, Victor. I understand. I only need you to do your duty, without favoring anyone." I hung up and looked out at Seattle, draped in heavy rain, streetlights reflecting on the slick sidewalks. Spencer thought he could steer public opinion through a group chat, but he did not know that hotel policy already stood with me. I opened the blue folder and added a printed screenshot of the group chat a guest had sent. Evidence upon evidence, like bricks in a wall. In my study, I wrote in my journal, "May 14th, photos of his other life, proof of gambling and infidelity. Lillian has not opened the photo. Spencer is boasting to the investment crowd. The mask is cracking." I closed the book and looked out the window at the white curtain of Seattle rain, the wind through the trees reminding me that truth always finds a way to surface. 2 days later, a message came from Victor Morgan, head of security at the Emerald Crown. "Judge Ellsworth, I have just received an official request from the groom. He wants us to scrutinize guests from the bride's side carefully to ensure no one tarnishes the image." I thought you should know. I smiled and typed back, "Thank you, Victor. Record everything. On the day, the truth will speak for itself." That evening, I took the navy suit from the closet and hung it in front of the mirror. I sat looking at it for hours, a silent witness awaiting its day in court. Beside it lay the thick blue folder, nearly bursting at the seams. In my mind, the pieces were ready, the ultimatum email, the recording, the group chat screenshot, the investment contracts, witness statements, and the photos of infidelity and gambling. I needed only one opening, and Spencer would hand it to me himself. Just then, the phone rang. Lillian's voice shook. "Dad!" I looked at the photo. "I can't believe it. But Spencer found out someone sent you those pictures. He's furious. Please be careful." Her call echoed in my head. "Dad, Spencer knows someone sent you photos. He's raging. Be careful." I sat in the lamplight of the study, the blue folder before me. I knew this moment would come. Spencer Rowe was not the sort to stay quiet when his power was threatened. The next morning, an email arrived from Spencer himself. Not long, not circled with pleasantries, just a single line. Stop digging, or you will not see the wedding at all. I printed it and clipped it into the blue folder. A new piece of evidence, this time a direct threat. In the afternoon, I went to Marcus's office. He spread documents across the table, notes on failed investments, draft complaints from several investors, and an internal report from a source. Spencer does not just owe money. He is under a quiet financial inquiry. Not public yet, but soon. His eyes held worry. Are you planning to reveal everything on the wedding day? I nodded. That is my hearing, Marcus. He chose that day to humiliate me. I will choose that day to show him the truth. That evening, Lillian arrived without makeup, eyes red and tired. Dad, she whispered, I argued with Spencer. I asked about the bar photo, about the gambling losses. He shouted that you are ruining the wedding. I do not know whom to believe. I took her hand. I do not want you to choose. I want you to see with your own eyes. Do not believe me. Do not believe Spencer. Believe the evidence? She nodded silently, tears falling, and left without another word, but I knew her trust in Spencer had begun to waver. That night, I sat in the quiet room and replayed Spencer's threat. If you wear that suit, entry will be forbidden. I closed my eyes and listened again and again, like a theme song that would swell before the entire guest list on the wedding day. I wrote in my journal, May 16th, new threat email. Lillian confronted Spencer. A fight erupted. He is losing control. The truth is near. Rain flooded Seattle outside. City lights blurred behind glass like a curtain before a hearing. I knew this shadow war was about to step into the light. As I reached to turn off the lamp, my phone buzzed. Victor Morgan's brief voicemail. Judge Ellsworth, you should know, Spencer has just sent a list of guests for a special screening. Your name is at the top. On the wedding morning, I woke earlier than usual. Rare Seattle sunlight streamed in, but I felt no warmth. Today was not only the day my daughter wore a wedding dress, it was the day another verdict would be read. No courtroom, no jury, but hundreds of witnesses. I hung the navy suit, worth $120, before the mirror. I smoothed the collar, felt the cool fabric, and knew I had chosen correctly. It was not just attire. It was a declaration. I would enter my daughter's wedding with my dignity intact, bowing to no humiliation. I placed the blue folder in my old leather case, every piece inside. The ultimatum email, the recording, the group chat screenshot, the investment contracts, the gambling and infidelity photos, Victor's pledge about VIP policy. Each item is a brick in a wall of justice. At 10 o'clock, I drove to the Emerald Crown Hotel. The city hummed. In the rear view, I saw my face, calm as if en route to a hearing. At the entrance, Victor was already waiting. He shook my hand, voice firm. Judge Ellsworth, we received the groom's list. But as I said, you are a VIP guest. No one can stop you. I nodded. Thank you, Victor. Do your duty. I will handle the rest. He smiled slightly. You have my word. I stepped into the grand lobby. Crystal lights blazed, a string ensemble played softly, and white orchids perfumed the air. Guests glittered, laughter and greetings rippled. I saw Lillian in a luminous white gown, radiant but with worry in her eyes. When our eyes met, she smiled, then quickly turned away. I understood, caught between two worlds, blind love and stark truth. Then Spencer appeared, black tuxedo perfect, hair immaculate, a confident smile fixed in place. But when he saw me, his eyes darkened. He came close and murmured, I warned you, that suit is not allowed here. I met his gaze, voice calm. This is my suit. I do not need your permission to enter my daughter's wedding. He ground his teeth, snapped at two security staff, but Victor stepped in, voice like steel. I'm sorry, Mr. Rowe. Judge Ellsworth is a VIP guest. We cannot and will not bar him. The statement rang like a gavel, turning nearby heads. Spencer flushed but forced a smile, speaking loudly to cover himself. Oh, just a misunderstanding. Everything's fine. but I knew he was boiling inside. I walked into the ballroom. Rows of white draped chairs, tall orchid arrangements, candlelight flickering. I chose a seat near the aisle, opened my case, and set the blue folder on my lap. I did not need to do anything else. I would wait for Spencer to move. He would, because men like him destroy themselves by overreach. As the violins began the welcoming piece, Spencer told the wedding planner loudly enough for the front rows and me to hear, "When it is time for speeches, I will take the microphone. The bride's father will not speak. Make sure of it." The strings soared through the ballroom, delicate notes gliding through the air, but to me, they were the opening bell of an unofficial hearing. Spencer had just stood in front of the wedding planner, voice not lowered as usual, loud, enough for me and nearby guests to hear. "When it is time for speeches, I will take the microphone. The bride's father does not need to speak. Write that into the program." The planner hesitated, then nodded. I saw glances trade among guests, surprise, discomfort. Instead of anger, I felt relief. He had revealed himself, domineering, controlling, contemptuous, before the very crowd he aimed to impress. I sat still, my hand resting lightly on the blue folder, feeling the pages of evidence warming, eager to be opened. When the ceremony began, Lillian appeared, radiant in white, but her eyes searched for me in the crowd. I saw hesitation etched on her face. Spencer stood straight, smiling broadly, his gaze sweeping the room like a rightful owner. The ceremony flowed smoothly until the planner lifted the microphone to the stage. Spencer stepped forward and said resonantly, "Today is a special day. I want to thank everyone for coming, and of course I will handle everything to make this day perfect. The bride's father, sit there, watch, and be proud. That's enough." As his words ended, the ballroom fell silent. The opulent air sagged, a few guests raising their eyebrows. I stood and walked slowly toward the stage. Spencer turned, eyes sparking. "I told you, you have no place here." I did not answer. I held up a USB to the AV tech at the wing. He looked at the VIP badge on my card, nodded, and switched the input. I plugged the USB into the projector that was set for the wedding slideshow. On the giant screen, the line appeared. "Entry will be forbidden. Spencer Rowe." His voice from the recording rang out, clear. "Mr. Ellsworth, I don't want any misunderstanding. Your $120 suit, if you wear it, security will not let you in. Entry will be forbidden." The ballroom was dead quiet. I turned to Spencer, my voice calm yet carrying. "This is how my future son-in-law speaks to his bride's father. Not once, but twice. Once by email, once by phone. I have both." Spencer blanched and lunged for the mic. That's a misunderstanding. I only wanted a perfect wedding." But I raised my hand, firm. Perfect by smearing the bride's father before hundreds of guests? By spreading in the group chat that the bride's family cannot afford things? Or by signing a $500,000 loan contract and not paying it back? I opened the blue folder, pulled out the investment contract, and held it up for all to see. A murmur rippled across the ballroom. Spencer flushed crimson, his hand trembling as he tried to snatch the mic. But at that moment, a strong female voice rose from the guest rows. "Enough!" Everyone turned to see Teresa Blake, the Chief Justice of Washington State, standing. She walked to the stage, poised, her voice decisive. I know Judge Gordon Ellsworth well. He served on the federal appellate bench. He is among the most respected in our judiciary. And he does not fabricate. The ballroom burst into chatter. Spencer seemed drained of all color, looking from me to Teresa, mouth opening without words. I continued, slowly, my voice like a pronouncement. Character matters more than clothing. Respect matters more than wealth. A man willing to humiliate his bride's father on the wedding day, willing to lie about debts and use control to hide his weakness. Is he worthy of my daughter? Lillian stood frozen, eyes wide, breath quick as if lost amid hundreds of stares. Her white dress trembled with each frantic beat. She raised a hand to her mouth, tears falling, then slowly looked at me, pleading for truth, for a place to stand. When our eyes met, I nodded. Only then did Lillian's shaking hand move to the ring. She turned it once, as if clinging one last time, then removed it, letting the metal fall to the floor, its clang echoing through the ballroom like a final verdict. Spencer lunged, but security stepped in time to stop him. I looked at my daughter, tears streaming down her cheeks, and I knew the judgment had been rendered not by me, but by the truth itself. As Spencer was pulled out, he screamed, voice breaking, "I will ruin you, Ellsworth. This isn't over." I only watched, my hand on the blue folder, and whispered, "Indeed, it isn't over. Not until justice is complete." Spencer's shouting echoed from the hall as security dragged him from the ballroom. Inside, the space was hushed, as if after a storm. Guests sat still, eyes fixed on me and Lillian. I set the blue folder lightly on the mic stand, my hands now steady, as if grasping a gavel. I looked at my daughter. Her shoulders shook, tears streamed, but her eyes were clearer, brighter. She had done the hardest thing of her life, removing the ring before the altar. In that moment, she was no longer a guided bride, but a woman who chose to stand with truth. I stepped forward and draped a light shawl over her shoulders. "You did the right thing," I whispered, and she collapsed against my chest, sobbing. The ballroom's murmurs rose, but no longer with mockery, now with recognition. Teresa Blake stepped up, her voice resonant and firm. "Let this be remembered. This is not merely a broken engagement. This is proof that character matters more than money and appearances. Those who use control and debt to conceal weakness will be exposed." Applause began in scattered claps, then swelled in waves. Some guests, venture capitalists, wealthy executives, nodded with bowed heads. They had witnessed a public hearing, not in a courtroom, but in a lavish wedding hall. I took the mic, my voice calm but carrying. "I do not need many words. The evidence has spoken. Today is not the day I regained dignity. It is the day my daughter regained freedom." Lillian looked up, eyes shining through tears. She gripped my hand like the child who once hugged her father at the school gate, but now, as an adult, was grateful for a place to stand. Spencer remained outside, shouting about lawsuits and threats, but no one believed him. A few guests quietly filmed security holding him back, and there were whispers, "Is that the row tied to last year's crypto mess?" Rumors began to spread, and I knew his career would collapse not because of me, but because of what I had revealed. After the ceremony, guests dispersed. Many came to shake my hand. "Judge Ellsworth, thank you for letting us witness the truth." I only smiled and replied, "Not me, justice." When only Lillian and I remained in the dim ballroom, candlelight guttering, she sat on a low step, eyes red but calmer. "Dad," she said softly, "I'm sorry I did not listen sooner, but I know. Today you did not just save me from a wrong marriage. You showed me my true worth." I sat beside her, holding her hand, our eyes on the orchids fading in the last light. "Lillian, justice does not always come from a court. Sometimes it comes when a father stands up on his daughter's wedding day." Outside, Seattle's rain had ceased, leaving bright water streaks on the glass reflecting streetlights. I knew the journey had closed, not with bitter revenge, but with the unveiling of truth, a truth enough to topple an arrogant man and return freedom to the one I love most. I rose, closed the blue folder, and placed it in the leather case. It had done its work. From a cheap suit, I'd built a file that cost Spencer Rowe everything, and I, a father once told I was unworthy to hold the mic, had turned that wedding day into my courtroom. Conclusion: as Lillian and I stepped out of the Emerald Crown Hotel, Seattle's sky brightened. A new chapter opened, free of the shackles of control, leaving only justice and liberty. I looked at my daughter and said gently, "Sometimes a ring hitting the floor is enough to wake the whole world. If you believe that character matters more than money, please subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video. Do not forget to leave a comment to tell me where you are listening from. Your companionship is the motivation for me to continue revealing the truth many families want to hide."